Hey guys, in this video we're going to be checking out the new Tomoquads Hayabusa 2.5-inch frame. And this is an H-style frame for top-mounted batteries. As you see, I've configured for a top-mounted battery. You could possibly also go with a bottom-mounted battery as well, but they don't have the slots here for the battery strap on the bottom of the frame. If you guys want to see the frame review video, I'll put a card in the corner. You guys can watch it. I'm not going to go over all the details of the frame in this video. The build of this was actually pretty easy. Use the King Kong stack here, the 2-layer stack. Basically, it's a 20M 4-in-1 BLL ESC Omnibus F4 flight controller with Betaflight OST. So that stack goes in very easily. So what you want to do is you want to mount the 4-in-1 ESC first, and then mount your motors, and then solder your motor wires on. Now I went with the BBB 1105 7500 kV motors. Very good motors. However, I would recommend going to the 6000 kV instead of the 7500 kV. Now, don't get me wrong, this thing's a beast on the 7500 kV, but your flight time is going to be short. I was only getting 2 to 2.5 minutes of flight time on a 550 3S GNB battery. It's a nice joyride, but if you want longer flight times, go with the 6000 kV motor. You can get a longer flight time. It's going to be a little bit slower, but between the two, I would recommend going with the 6000 kV. But the reason I went with this motor here instead of, say, like an 1106 motor, mainly is because I didn't want to extend motor wires. I had an 1106 motor I was thinking about using, but then the motor wire wouldn't reach. So it's basically got to go all the way around. So I'll just show you from the bottom. Motor wire's got to go all the way around here, and then it's going to curve in. And then for me, I have it going from the inside out, so it goes from in to the top of the solder pads there. Now, knowing that I was going to go with a top-mounted system instead of the bottom, I kind of forgot that I was going to do a top-mounted battery. I would redo this next time and solder on the bottom of these solder pads here instead of coming from the top. It's a little minor difference, but there's no reason for me to have that space there unless I want to put another battery strap in there, which I could potentially do if I want to do a bottom mounted battery, but in this case I probably won't, so I could have gone that way. But in this case I went through the top and then soldered on my wires that way. But the reason I went with these motors is because they had really long motor wires. And that being said, whatever you choose, you're going to have long motor wires, or you're going to have to extend the motor wires to reach your ESC. Obviously, you could probably do a little right-hand turn here and then go straight to the side here without going around. You might be able to get away with that for a motor wire that's not quite as long, but that's just one of the little obstacles that I kind of ran into. Plenty of space here between the standoffs here. Is just 4 standoffs, and got your camera in the front here. This build was really super easy. Basically, once you mount the 4-in-1 ESC, you solder on the motors. You actually mount the motors, solder on the motor wires. Then you connect the flight controller, it's just plug and play. And then there's little cable connectors here that plug in for the camera. So there's one, it's all included with the flight stack. I plugged that in there, plugged this into the back of the camera, no soldering there. I didn't even have to solder the connector for the receiver to the flight controller. There's a little connector in the back there for the receiver to provide the cable. Then I soldered the cable, other end of the cable, to the receiver I had, and that's actually sitting right on top of the flight controller there with some double-sided foam tape. So that I did have to solder the cable to the receiver, but then that cable just plugs into the flight controller. And then the other thing that I soldered was the 3 wires for the video and power that goes to the VTX03. That's 5 volts, and so just cut off the wires there, soldered them to the flight controller, and then I just zip tied the video transmitter to the frame here, and then it's actually sitting right on top of the power wires. The power wires go at the back here, and they go into this nice 3D printed part that was provided. What I did is I actually stuck my XT30 in here first, then I soldered the wires to the XT30, and then I used some liquid electrical tape here to cover up the exposed leads because the heat shrink wouldn't bend. But that's all I did there. That's why you have some gunk there. That's just black liquid electrical tape. I have a zip tie in the back here. I just zip tie to the standoff, and then I have the VTX03 video transmitter antenna heat shrunk to the zip tie to keep that out of the props, and it's pretty much no danger of that happening. I have only a single antenna on the receiver. I have here not a dual antenna, so I just have a zip tie that went up through the bottom and then through, and then I fished the antenna through as well, and then heat shrunk the antenna to the zip tie, so just a single antenna there. I really like the top-mounted battery style here. You just stick the battery in here, cinch it down with the Velcro strap, and then you just plug it into the back here. And so, as long as your battery cable isn't too long, there's really no danger of it getting into the props, because if you plug it in here, this plug actually keeps the the battery wires out of the props, which is pretty good. The only one, I guess, minor downside I can see here is that because the stack is so low, it's only 20 millimeters from top plate to bottom plate. The stand-up's so short. Basically, the way I stuck my camera in here, this is the Cadex Turbo Micro SDR1. You can see that it's butted up against the top plate there, and you have a lot of camera angle there, it's camera tilt. So if you're not really comfortable flying that much camera tilt, then you might have some issues. Now, another thing is that these TPU printed parts are very hard to get onto the standoffs and very hard to move around. I could probably move these down maybe another millimeter, and I could potentially adjust the angle down a little bit. But right now it's about 35-40 degrees, so it's pretty, it's pretty aggressive. You're going to need to get accustomed to flying like that. Either that, or you're going to have to go to a 25 millimeter standoff instead of the 20 millimeter standoff, which is definitely doable. Although you kind of lose that low profile and CG effects, and then you could lower your camera angle. So if that's something that you need for a lower camera angle, then that's something you should probably think about before getting this, is how much camera tilt or what minimum camera tilt you can go with before you run into trouble. Okay, so here is the weight of this fully built, and we're coming in a little over 91 grams, so it's kind of a little bit on the heavier side for 2.5 inch. I have a few other 2.5 inch models on my channel that are a little bit lighter, and I think that's because of the style of the frame. The H style, it's a little more carbon there, and also the long top plate as well. I think those add a little bit more weight, along with also the 3D printed parts. So I would say, go to the 1105 6000 kV motors, or there's other beefier motors out there. Maybe an 1106 6000 kV might be something a little bit better because it's a little bit heavier. The motors for me didn't get hot at all. They still felt like I had plenty of power. It's just that I was a little disappointed with the flight time. Instead of the 550, I may have to try like a 650 3S, and that'll of course add a little more weight. In terms of the tune, I will go ahead and put the PIDs up on the screen. You guys can copy those if you want. Not the greatest tune in the world. I think I spent maybe 3 packs trying to tune it, and I got to the point where I liked it enough to make a video, but yeah, it's not. I'm not going to be doing 20 packs and getting every little detail out of a PID tune anymore, because I just don't have the time for that. So I'll do about 3-4 packs, get a pretty decent tune, and if that's good enough for you, then go ahead and use it. If not, then you can use my PID tune as a starting point to adjust PIDs to your liking. In any event, I'll go ahead and I'll show you some flight demo footage. If you got any questions about the frame, the build, etc., let me know. I really like the way this looks. It's a really nice looking frame, nice build, good parts. Except for the, I'd go with the 6000, 7500 kV motors. Other than that, definitely like it. It's all good. And yeah, I would definitely recommend you check it out if you want a H-style and a top-mounted battery and a 2.5 inch frame. Definitely check it out. Go ahead and put a link in the description to all the stuff that I mentioned in the video, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.